Good morning, good afternoon, colleagues. We already have a very good number here. All are represented, and a few might be connecting soon. Thank you for joining this consultative and brainstorming meeting. The two words are important. We're really here to brainstorm with you, to learn from each other, and try to see how we can better define next steps for collaboration and synergies to have a more impactful, sustainable housing and building programs. We all know how important this sector is. There is really almost no need to highlight. So many studies has been done on that, and we all know that there could be absolutely no solution to the climate change challenges if we don't deal seriously with the building and housing sector. If you all recall, the fourth IPCC report in 2007 highlighted very clearly that if there is one top low-hanging fruit, it is effectively the building sector. We are all well aware of it. We know from the sustainable consumption and production perspective, if we don't deal seriously with housing and building, where the citizens are there, where they produce, where they consume, we also in this sector, we cannot make a big difference without really ensuring to have sustainable housing, resource-efficient buildings. So climate change, SCP, are all very much related to what we can do in this sector. In Asia, anyone who has been going around in Asia, you see the buildings mushrooming, you will see the growing cities, you wonder how we can live there, mega trends of urbanization, and that will really determine the future. Still, a lot is built almost business as usual, locking in decision-making for the generation, probably more problems. But there are a lot of good solutions around. Not enough, but they do exist. Excellent initiatives within the context of Switch Asia with the support of the EU, within the context of other partners who are working with us, with the support of UN agencies, ICLEI, Global Alliance for Building Construction, and many others, and the initiative by the countries themselves in their agenda for climate change. All of them have the issue of building, energy efficient building, very high on their agenda to tackle the climate change issue. So we'll be working with all together on that, and we'll try to see how we can really push further on this issue. But the interest of this meeting, or the really what we aim at, is by jointly exploring how housing and building can play a key part in the transition to circularity and sustainable consumption production. Just by working together, we can really scale up and ensure that this sector plays the role it should play, it deserves to play in order to get to the transformative change. Material, governance, finance, all this issue will be dealing with them today. And we would like to hear from you, share experience with you in order to see how all together we can move further with government, with the private sector, looking at the market, looking at the banking system, the financial innovation that are needed. Opportunities exist. All together, let us see how we can make a difference. Welcome again, and let us proceed with that. Alessandra, without the EU, we will not be here today to talk about this sector, with thanks to the great support of the EU for this major program. The floor is yours.
Morning, good afternoon. I hope you can hear me. Thanks a lot, Arab, for your introduction. I think it was really, really good and on the point. I would like to welcome everyone today to this second cluster meeting. We focus, of course, today on housing and building, but what I think we want to stress is this is part actually of a larger approach of our Switch Asia program and tackling key areas of SCP, sustainable consumption production in Asia. 2 weeks ago, we held actually a meeting then on textile, and a few others will follow from here to May, June on agri-food, plastics, waste, sustainable public procurement, just to name a few. I think that Arab already underlined the major challenges of this sector in Asia, and there's probably no need actually to recall them. What I think I would like to highlight here from the EU side is actually that also the EU itself with member states and then in its external cooperation, we are actually engaging on a green transition on the different areas. Building or construction is one of this. I just would like to recall that we adopted an action plan on circular economy in March last year. Construction is indeed one of the key sectors for us. And then we also adopted a new strategy on renovation wave last October with the objective to double the energy renovation rate in the next 10 years and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Of course, the focus will be, first of all, within our member states, but as said, we do think it's needed and important then to work with partners around the world, and through which we do work in 24 countries in Asia to tackle these common challenges. I think we'll also showcase a video that we produced recently, just correct me if wrong, where you could actually see, or we try to reproduce the work that our different grants and national supports are doing. In the construction sector, we have ongoing projects in Mongolia, Afghanistan, and Bangladesh. And we also had projects in the past in China, Nepal, and Malaysia. And here I think you can see that we are really covering different sub-regions, and you can really see how the issue of construction, housing, and building is important overall in Asia. We are also providing technical support in Pakistan and also in Kyrgyzstan. And soon we should also provide a support in Bangladesh. So I would really like to thank all the representatives of national governments and also grantees that are here today. I think Arab underlined already the objective of this meeting is really to create this platform of exchange, and together with our delegations that are present today, here today with the, for me from Brussels, but colleagues and delegations are also connected. The idea is really to create this critical mass of discussions and share of experiences at regional level rather than only at national level. And that's why I think that these cluster meetings are key for us to really connect the different supports that as which we are providing in Asia overall. So I think I will stop here. I will let the floor, I think, to the speakers, which are really working in the field, and I think they have very interesting and useful examples to provide to us. So together with our delegation, I think I wish a very fruitful meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Alessandra. Before having Cosima leading us throughout, probably we can see the video.
Did you ever wonder how your home can improve the quality of your life? The way homes and buildings are designed and developed has a significant impact on the well-being of communities, people, and the environment. In 2019, the Asia-Pacific region has become majority urban for the first time in history. With more than 2.3 billion people living in cities, the need for a sustainable urban future has never been more important. The building and construction sectors are responsible for 36% of all carbon emissions in the world. Majority of these emissions occur when homes and buildings are in operation. From the energy used to heat, cool and power them, to construction materials, maintenance and renovation. Efficient use of resources, energy and water. Pollution and waste reduction measures. Responsible choices for design and materials will reduce energy consumption and carbon emissions. Increasing the value of homes and buildings, driving economic growth, and improving the quality of our lives. Since 2007, Switch Asia has implemented 15 grant projects contributing to sustainable housing in South Asia, Southeast Asia, and East Asia. The program is also providing technical assistance to Pakistan on Green Building Code, and to Kyrgyzstan on energy efficiency in the construction sector. The important support of the European Union results in improving resource efficiency and cleaner production, increasing energy-saving housing solutions and access to finance, and contributing in all countries to national strategies and policies on climate mitigation. The green recovery must begin where we live, work, and study. Each one of us can make a difference. It is our common and shared responsibility.
Thank you very much, Cosima.
Yes.
Us now.
Yes. So I would like to just very quickly glance with you over the program and how it is set up. So we start with 2 contributions by the Global Alliance for Buildings and Construction, and one of the key deliverables of the Switch Asia SCP facilities activities on housing so far, the housing study. And then we go into one of the really important topics, which is kind of the social side of housing, and the social side of improving housing options, making affordable housing choices more available, where Switch Asia grant projects have been working on. So this would be 2 contributions from Mongolia and Afghanistan on the next slide, actually. And after this, we plan for a discussion with regards to housing challenges, as well as the availability of those choices. And then after this discussion, we would like for projects on the construction and building sector to present. And here the focus would be on environmental footprint and material and energy efficiency. And with these 2 contributions, let's say from the social side of housing and then also the environmental technical side of building being brought together in our final discussion. And of course, we really invite you as participants to come in here. You already can see the discussion questions that we have developed, and really to contribute from your perspective and from your experience so that we can have a lively exchange about these topics. Yeah, and so I would like to give the floor to Ms. Nora Steurer from the Global Alliance for Building and Construction for setting the scene from the environmental standpoint. And then to be continued by Ms. Madeleine Schneider from Adelphi with a more specific focus on housing.
Thank you so much, Cosima, and it's really my pleasure to be here today. And thank you so much for having me. It's really a pleasure to be here, and I also thank Switch Asia for this initiative. Arab, I think, said it very, very well, that few things are possible, whether it's climate action or social action, without addressing housing. And I just want to underline this with a couple of facts and figures from the work that we're doing here at the Global Alliance for Buildings and Construction. As Cosima said, my name is Nora. I'm based in Paris. I'm wrapped up warmly here. I don't have the nice weather that you probably enjoy in Bangkok. So let's get started. Why buildings? I just want to underline the immense opportunity, but also the impact of the sector. And with a couple of figures, we know now that the equivalent of Paris is added in floor space every 5 days. I'm based in Paris, lovely city, but it underlines the challenge that we're facing. And actually half of the buildings standing in 2060 have not even been built. And of course, Asia plays a massive role in this. So when you look at non-OECD Asia, and you can see the graph here, this is really where most of the new construction will take place. So great that there is this initiative here. A few words about us, for those of you who don't know us yet. We were founded at COP21, and we really have at the heart of our agenda climate action in the built environment. Our mission is a zero-emission, efficient and resilient buildings and construction sector. We started with 79 members. We're now over 160, among which are 30 countries. And our 3 objectives include to be a global advocate, to give the sector a voice in the climate debate, to be a trusted platform for setting targets and for tracking progress, and to support countries in setting priorities based on their situation. I want to talk to you a bit about tracking progress. These figures come from our latest Global Status Report for Buildings and Construction. This is an annual report which comes out every year to track the main figures, the main trends in the sector, and it came out in December 2020. What we see here is that 35% of final energy demand is due to the sector, and 38% of global CO2 emissions is actually at an all-time high. So we see that the actions that are currently taken in the sector are not enough to turn the ship around. This is, I think, very important to underline the current situation with COVID-19. Of course, it has also impacted the global buildings industry. But we do know that investing into building efficiency retrofits, for instance, is very job intensive. This is good news. And in this sense, also, it's really good that the European Commission, that initially, I think Alessandra highlighted the EU renovation wave. Indeed, this is the right way forward. And this is really a win-win for the economy and for building. Let's take a look at global commitments by countries. Let's take a look at nationally determined contributions. These are a really key vehicle to set the scene for the entire buildings and construction value chain. This can be sort of North Star, where to go. And we know that the great majority of countries mention buildings in their NDC, so this is good news. But we also know that the majority don't include concrete targets or measures, that they are not aligned with net zero targets, and that certain topics like cooling, which is also in Asia very, very important, or resilience are often omitted. So there's a lot of work to be done, especially in the context of COP. Finally, I want to highlight to you this tool. This is new with this year's Buildings Status Report. So this is our Buildings Climate Tracker, which is a composite index. It includes indicators such as NDCs, such as renewable energy share, such as building energy codes, and others that you can see here in the circle. And it shows us where the sector is in total. And what we see here is the progress in the sector. It's slowing down. It's not speeding up, it's slowing down. So we need a bigger scale, and we need bigger pace. And we need COVID-19 to be used as an opportunity. We need national governments to include building systematically as building back better in their recovery strategies and in their NDCs, so that on-the-ground action can take place. I want to stop here. I have some more slides, but I think this gave you maybe an idea. And of course, I'm happy to answer any questions. So thank you very much, and thank you for having invited me. Back over to you, Cosima.
Thank you, Nora, and thank you very much for the presentation. And I can highly recommend the annual report as a source of so much information and knowledge. Yeah, thank you for the good work that you are doing there at Global ABC. So with the next contribution from Ms. Madeleine Schneider, yeah, as I already said, this is based on the work that they have, Madeleine and Anton have been doing for the facility with regards to sustainability in the housing sector. And yeah, over to you, Madeleine.
Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon. I'm glad to be here today. My name is Madeleine Schneider, and I will give you today an overview of a study we have conducted on sustainable housing, addressing SCP in the housing sector. I've conducted this study together with colleagues from Adelphi and also with colleagues from the organization Development Alternatives. So before I go into the details of the study, I would like to give you set briefly the context. So as you know, housing and housing policy play a crucial role as they shape cities worldwide and often produce inequalities and environmental impacts. So therefore, the future of urbanization depends on how countries and cities position housing as a priority in the public debate. And here, different facets come into play when discussing sustainable housing. So actually the ecological, economic, social, and cultural sustainability, these four components. So to address the key challenges related to urbanization and climate change, sustainable housing shall combine all of those four sustainability dimensions and pursue a holistic approach in order to make healthy residential neighborhoods and sustainable cities. So this is particularly important in the Asian context, given the magnitude of the urbanization process. And therefore, it's fundamental to look at the Asian housing sector as it has the potential to drive green practices in the construction industry and promote sustainable development in the region. So due to the relevance that I've just mentioned, the Switch Asia SCP facility has commissioned a study with the aim to provide a comprehensive overview of the current state, trends and gaps of SCP in sustainable housing in Asia, and to identify critical issues with the needs for further action. So in order to determine critical issues, the study has examined housing along the five stages of the building value chain and has also taken into consideration social and environmental aspects of housing. So this in-depth assessment has been done for 10 focal countries, which you can see in dark blue on this map. And in addition, further research has also been done for the additional other Switch Asia countries, and the findings have been collected in country briefs. So I won't be able now to show you all of the details along the life cycle, but I will directly go to the environmental and social aspects of the assessment. So in addition to the life cycle assessment in the study, we also covered the social and environmental aspects of sustainable housing. So we had a closer look at the SDGs, NDCs, affordable housing and district development programs and the corresponding status of in the assessed countries. So regarding the building sector and more specifically the sustainable housing, the most relevant SDGs are SDG 11 on sustainable cities and SDG 12 on SCP. But of course, there are also interlinkages with other SDGs, such as Goal 1 on ending poverty. So the level of detail of sustainable housing goals in the country's strategies vary broadly across the countries that have been assessed. So in some countries, already ambitious targets for emission reduction with a focus on energy efficiency measures in the building sector have been established, but others do not yet address housing at all as priority actions. So overall, as the region is one of the most vulnerable to climate change, adaptation efforts are highlighted in most of the NDCs as priorities for sustainable development. When taking a closer look at affordable housing developments, several programs and policies to address the growing demand for housing, especially for low-income groups, have been initiated. For example, the 100,000 Homes project in Mongolia or My First Home scheme in Malaysia. So besides programs that add to the formal housing stock, Governments have also invested in slum upgrading schemes, as in Thailand, for example, with the Ban Mang Kong program. Nevertheless, housing affordability still remains a challenge in urbanized Asia, with the high prices for housing affecting also middle income groups, and there are limited options for housing finance. Just briefly, to eco-cities, which have also grown in Asian countries as a way to develop urban areas that are gentler to the natural environment and provide the inhabitants with better health and life quality. So for instance, in Kazakhstan, their green districts are developed with green certified buildings, rainwater storage, and so forth. So overall, the assessment of the study showed that considerable efforts in the field of SCP in sustainable housing have already been made in most focal countries, including affordable housing programs and awareness-raising campaigns for energy and water conservation. Nevertheless, challenges remain, especially in the areas of material production and recycling. So that is at the beginning and at the end of the building life cycle. And this is often due to the lack of policies for energy-intensive industries, such as cement, and also due to the lack of reuse of construction and demolition waste. But in order to address these critical areas, joint efforts are required to collectively discuss and promote holistic approaches that respond to the critical issues identified and trigger the scale-up of SCP in sustainable housing across Asia. So we have identified the priority topics based on the assessment, which you can see here. I will now not go into detail, but just to highlight one of them with a crucial need for action is affordable housing finance, which in many of the assessed countries is still lacking. So then thank you very much for your attention. And if you want to have a closer look at the study, you can find it using the following link. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madeline, for these insights into the study findings. And we would like to now head over to the grants project's contributions. As you know, Switch Asia, or one of the major components of Switch Asia, is to support projects on the ground that support sustainability, sustainable production and consumption. And we have chosen 2 projects that are actually led by the same organization, GERES, that cover the aspects, or let's say the social aspect of low-income housing very well. They both are concerned with making energy efficiency measures happen, but they both very much focus on, let's say, the human, the dwellers at the center of it all, and have found unique approaches on how to do this. And so, I would like to welcome Beatrice to the floor to present the case of switch-off air pollution in Mongolia.
Thank you very much, Cosima. Thank you very much, Switch Asia, for organizing this event and for inviting us. So, Switch-off air pollution project is implemented in Mongolia under Switch Asia program, and is implemented by the University Building Energy Efficiency Center, Mongolian National Construction Association, People in Need, and GERES NGO. Sorry, I'm having, I don't know what is, okay. So the first is to understand the context of Mongolia. Mongolia is a country, it's one of the coldest countries in the world with harsh climate conditions. And that that makes that it's the use of heating fuel is extremely high per capita, that is contributing to the greenhouses gas effects and also to the air pollution, which accounts 1 out of 10 deaths in Mongolia. So Ulaanbaatar, the capital, is one of the most polluted cities in the world, above all in winter. It's 30 times over the limit of recommended by WHO. And half of the Mongolian population is settled in the capital due to the increased number of migrants that are coming from the countryside to the capital because of the climate change impact, around 10,000 by every year. And they came to the city and live in the unplanned area that we call Ger area. Ger is the traditional yurt. You can see it in the picture. It's this white tent. And this area is where the 60% of the population of Ulaanbaatar is living, in these yurts and also in houses that they construct by themselves. And an area which is lacking of basic infrastructures, and that majority, half of their population, earn less than the national average. Also, they spend 70% of their annual income in heating, and the price is seven times higher than the price paid by people living in the apartments. And majority of these households lack of investment capacity, and unfortunately, with the COVID economical crisis, this percentage has increased. So the majority of the pollution is coming from the burning of coal for heating the houses in the Ger area with traditional stoves, but also the electricity and the heat produced for the apartments is done by coal power plants, very old ones, which are lacking of, which are inefficient, and also polluting a lot. In this context, the government of Mongolia has approved ambitious plans and strategies to bring in the construction sector. They have increased their commitment to the NDC into 23% of reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, and by 2030, and they aim to reduce the heat losses in the buildings by 40%, as the building sector is one of the one polluting most and contributing most to the greenhouse gases emissions. The municipality of Ulaanbaatar has tried many ways of solving this problem. The first one was promoting the construction of apartments to try to move people from the Ger area into these apartments. Unfortunately, majority of these programs are failing because the lack of because these apartments are not affordable for majority of the population. So it's more a middle to long-term plan, but in the short term, they are aware that majority of people will remain in the Ger area. So another solutions are being tested, as for instance, free electricity tariff in the nights to promote electrical heaters. This is helping to the air pollution, but not to the emissions of the greenhouse gases, due to the electrical grid is inefficient and is polluting a lot. And also the problem here is that in the Ger area, the electrical capacity is very low, so it's not possible to implement this kind of solutions in all the area. And also the most successful step so far is the ban of raw coal and the introduction of improved coal. But this is subsidized and is costing around 12 million euros. So I want to highlight that in Mongolia, the electricity and the coal are very much subsidized. This is important to understand because what the project is trying to do is to intermediate the market, to switch the market into a market focused on the gray area for insulating the houses as a fair price, and the aim is to reach 1,000 houses and to avoid 3,000 tons of equivalent CO2. And we need to understand that almost 80% of these houses need and can be insulated. So there is a need. There's a need that needs to be covered, but unfortunately the demand is low because majority of the homes are not aware about the benefits of insulation and also are lacking of investment capacity. So the project developed a ladder of products to try to be more inclusive and to try to give solutions to everyone. It's using a market approach because it's more sustainable and it's also contributing to circular economy and green jobs. So the project started implementing solutions according to the technical code, but unfortunately the prices were over what majority of people could afford. And this is the delivery model that was developed for connecting suppliers with green loans and financial institutions, governments, and households. And these are the solutions we have developed considering the different typologies of houses. We see the before and after of the insulation. So these are corresponding from the last ladder of the last step of the ladder, and unfortunately we realized that majority of people could not meet the green loan requirements or afford all the solutions. So we developed a step-by-step approach. So with aiming that to encourage people to insulate their house with very little amount, to start feeling the comfort, to start feeling that the air quality is better, and as they have more money, start implementing more solutions until reaching the last step. And to do so, we also developed another delivery model, this time based on word-to-mouth approach, to try to share with the community the knowledge about insulation and to encourage them to start insulating their homes. These are the very, very basic solutions, $25, that are including curtains, door insulation, floor, wall. And we know that the insulation is having a very good impact from the social perspective. The people feel warmer, cleaner indoor quality, the temperature fluctuation has decreased, the coal consumption and daily expenses are cut in half in these cases, but the saving is spent on food, which is very important. But unfortunately, the savings are not that high because of the subsidies. And they are starting promoting insulation to their neighbors and families. So to highlight about the project, that is very important to have a good understanding of the context, above all of this vulnerable population. There was very little knowledge about the conditions and also about the conditions of the craftsmen working in the black market. To have a participatory approach, always to get feedback, to improve and to adapt better the project and the products into the context. We developed the delivery model and linked to financial institutions like green loans, because we think it's very important. And we also standardize all the process. And this has leveraged by other donors and public authorities. For instance, the technical procedures were approved in the 2021 National Energy Efficiency Technical Construction Code this year. And so this is a bottom-up perspective to implement energy efficiency measures. And we are using brigades labor working in the Gay Area to work in the Gay Area, empowering local communities and improving people's lives, especially vulnerable areas, and addressing increased awareness and energy literacy, contributing to poverty alleviation and in a sustainable way through the market. That's all. Thank you very much. If you have any question, I will be happy to answer them during the discussion or by email. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Beatrice. I would suggest that we jump to the case of Afghanistan right away with Mohammed.
Oh, and good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much, Switch Asia team, and it's a pleasure to be here. Until then, I'm Mohammad Riaz Ramin, working for JERAS in Afghanistan, and I will speak on behalf of Kabul Green Homes project, which is implemented by JERAS and consortium with two national NGOs, the Rural Movement Organization and Afghanistan Microfinance Association. It was a 57 months project implemented at capital Kabul on residential houses. Okay, so this is the Kabul Green Homes project. It was implemented from March to November 2020, March 2016 to November 2020 in 15 urban districts of Kabul city. Next slide, please. Yes, I try to make it very simple and more pictorials. Previous slide, please, Cosimo, sorry. And here you can see the two images from Kabul. Later on, I will speak about the context, but to have a view prior to that, Kabul is distributed in two types of settlements, the formal or planned settlements and informal settlements. You can see it very visible in these two pictures, the formal or settlements and informal settlements. Our Kabul Green Home project was mostly focused on informal settlements, where the vulnerability of the pupils towards fuel, providing their fuels and basic energy needs was much more also Kabul is like 77% living in unplanned or informal settlements. Next slide. Generally about Afghanistan, it's a country of 38 million people and 660,000 square meters. We have not exactly as harsh as Mongolia, but we also have very harsh winters and summers. The temperature goes below minus 25, 30 in some provinces, and like 40 to 45 in summer. The fuels is the major problem in Afghanistan and also in capital Kabul. The affordability, cost, and access to the fuels, it's always remain a challenge for Afghan populations. Deforestation, it's like more than 80% of the forest landscape have been disappeared within 20 past years. As a capital Kabul, it's very fast urbanizations happened during last 2 decades, from less than 800,000 people to over 4 million in 2019. In parallel with that, thousands and thousands of buildings and houses are built where the standards and norms was not well respected. It's especially the energy efficiency standard and norms was not well respected in this very rapid urbanization and construction of the houses. Policy and standards, unfortunately, due to conflict and war within last few decades, were not well developed. On public building sectors, recently the energy efficient public building codes have been developed and almost in the final stage. But in housing sectors, still there is the very old, like 40 years back, norms and standards are in use. That's why the Kabul weather getting very, very polluted in the winter. It's each Afghan can understand the impact of the housing sector on the CO2 emissions and environment in winter. It's like in some cases even like 5-6 times more polluted than summer. I mean the weathers. On the other hand, the contribution of Afghans in the CO2 emissions, it's very low, 0.87 ton per capita per year, or in 0.35% of the global emissions, because it's not an industry country, and the lifestyle and life of the people are very, very basic. Poverty is unfortunately very in last few years it's getting worse and worse. In 2019, the World Bank shows that 5.6% of the population living under poverty lines. And even with COVID, I think it may the situation may be more worse. In Kabul, as I mentioned, 33% of the population on the formal or planned areas are living, and 77% of them are in unplanned area where the houses are very basic, single story and mud constructions mostly. Energy efficiency codes on housing sector is unfortunately not developed. In the surveys in assessments shows over 90% of the population use biomass fuels for heating their houses. It's a very, very huge contribution on the pollution and CO2 emissions. Devices, especially in the heating devices, are also not very efficient. It's basic local made mostly, and some models of imported from other countries raising nowadays, but mostly it's local made devices the people use for heating their houses. Next slide, please. The housing needs in Kabul, yeah, of course, the housing, they need to warm their, the people need to warm their houses during, especially for winter months when the temperature goes -10, more or less in capital Kabul. Then they need to improve the heating systems because it's very basic and the devices are not efficient. The indoor air quality is in the most cases it's very worse because the devices are not standard, and people they use biomass fuels. That's why the indoor temperature are not good enough for the residents' use. The fuel wood or the heating fuels, it's not need to be efficiently used because the devices and the systems, the housing, they are very inefficient and with a lot of heat losses and a lot of and have very less efficiency. And now about a few words about Kabul Green Home projects. It is a 5 years project implemented in 15 districts, mostly for the people, most vulnerable pupils who have difficulties to providing their heating fuels, energies, and they have dealing with indoor air qualities and comfort, of course, in their houses. It was a market-based driven solution, energy efficient solutions developed and provided to the residents through trained artisans and SMEs. And the project was implemented in consortium of an international NGO, JARAS, as a leader in rural movement organization in Afghanistan, Microfinance Finance Association as partners. Next slide. Here you see some pictures of the technical solutions developed. As I said, so the context is not well developed. I mean, the capacities for the advanced technical solutions are not available in the country, and the people, they don't have affordability to apply very costly and advanced technologies at their houses. Therefore, the Kabul Green Home project developed as simple as possible the techniques in order to be affordable for the communities and the capacities be available for that. I mean, the local capacities could build the solutions. A big range of the solutions have been developed and promoted in Kabul city. It was more than 10 type of solutions, including solar verandas, thermal insulation packages to improve the local kitchens, solar cookers, and so on. That's because the Kabul housing market is very complex. We have so many types of housing in the market, and we try to develop the solutions as much as covering most housing classes. Next slide. The awareness of Kabul and even Afghanistan population is very low on the environment, climate change, and energy topics. The Kabul Green Home Project, we designed a huge citywide awareness campaign in order to target as much as possible maximum community classes and communities. This awareness campaign start from single small individual meetings to very big conferences, workshops, and TV interviews, local community meetings. You can see it in the pictures, the different type of the awareness raising meetings. Because the people were not well aware of the climate change impacts of the energy efficiency techniques and solutions developed by JERAS and the partners. And through awareness campaign, we informed them of the challenges, and in parallel, we offered them the solutions developed by the project. And thanks to the awareness campaign, over 4,700 houses are equipped with energy efficiency techniques, and the self-replication or self-dissemination is strongly continue even after the end of the project. Next slide, please. Okay, so of course we within past few years of project implementation, we learn a lot of lessons from the project. We highlight some of them here. It's the awareness raising of the communities is very important to orient the demand and to create and scale up the demands. The technical solutions to be low cost and affordable for the communities. It's very important to develop the solutions on community level and their affordability. The capacities for the construction and maintenance, reparation of the technical solution is important to have the sufficient capacities. That's why the Kabul Green Home Project, we train over 135 SMEs, MSMEs, or artisans to construct the energy efficient techniques for the people and maintain and support them on the reparation and so on. Collaboration with local stakeholders, that's very important for the scaling up the project, and it's to involve them on the value chain of the energy saving solutions, dissemination and promotions. Local authorities such as municipality or environment departments. And the solutions to be local made and with local materials are more appreciated by the communities. And finally, the energy cost, to find solutions how to reduce the energy cost of the houses and how to provide better comfort and better air quality in the houses for targeted populations. For the scaling up of the solutions, collaboration with relevant stakeholders, especially the government authorities, the state authorities such as municipality, environment, standard authorities, necessary to engage and involve civil societies. For this is very good for the sustainability and as well for the scaling up. They can play a crucial role on the energy saving solutions value chain. Then to have the larger number of the energy saving solutions in order to cover maximum community groups and maximum types of housing in the context. And the artisans and SMEs are trained in the context, but it's need to be like long-term be supported, and in order to have govern them in a more collaborative with among them and with the pupils. So in that case, association of the or MSMEs or artisans can work better to create support and experience sharing and collaboration among the MSMEs and artisans, and also have the support communities with a clear address for their, if they want energy saving solutions, they can have contact this association, craftsmen or SMEs associations. Next slide, please. Okay, yeah, this is the a picture of the project team, and as we learned from Cobble Green projects, with implementation of energy efficient techniques in 4,700, over 7,900 CO2 can be saved, and also some amount of the wood fuel. And also we mapped Cobble and we realized over 300,000 houses are eligible for the energy saving solutions we already developed and validated, and it's in dissemination stage. If this 300,000 houses, they apply energy saving solutions at their houses, over 1,600 ton of fuel wood will be saved, and consequently 510,000 ton of CO2 can be saved per year. That can be a long-term impact of on the project in I think in a few years. Next slide, please. Yes, thank you very much for your attention. Yeah, I will be happy to answer any question.
Great. Thank you to the both of you. I thought those were really insightful presentations, even though we are a bit over time now already. So what I would suggest is that instead of a discussion, what we do now is to just see if there are any direct questions to the presenters. And I would like to start actually to the both of you. So what we saw were refurbishments rather than interventions with regard to new construction. Are there also lessons learned from the methodologies that you have developed with regard to new affordable housing constructions?
So it's to me the questions, sorry.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so in our case, as I said, within last 2 decades, thousands of buildings developed and houses developed. For us, the priority was first to find solutions for these exist houses, because their contribution was very high in the CO2, in the fuel use, and also in trust from the people. So we developed solutions first for the exist houses, how to improve their energy efficiency and how to orient the people behaviors to a proper use of these energy efficient solutions in their buildings. And then we also have some solutions for new construction. When the new construction happens in the city, we have some solutions for them to apply the energy efficiency standards or energy efficiency related developed technologies in their houses. So far, it's the majority of the houses renovated. It's exist houses. Although we have fewer the new buildings, also it's they apply the thermal insulation packages specifically, but mostly it's applied on the exist houses in Cobble City.
Great. Yes. Yes. Any other questions with regard to understanding of the project interventions?
I wish to raise a question to Beatrice, if possible. Beatrice, you referred to the association in your work to the local bank by the local banks. How much they were really supportive of your solutions and the possibility to allocate accessible green loans to such solutions?
Beatrice, we can't hear you, but I also see a question from Ranjan and also from Quentin. So maybe we just collect the questions and then you can answer.
Yeah, thank you, Cosima, giving me the floor. And I wish to thank both the presenters. Very interesting presentation. So I have one question to Beatrice first, and probably I have overlooked data. Like I just wanted to know in of quantitative saving in terms of fuel saving and the subsequent CO2 tons of reduction by this project. How many tons of CO2 is reduced because of this intervention? I think that is one of my interest to know. Then another to Mohammed, it was very good project. We also had a greenhouse project in 2012. So I'm curious to know about two dimensions. One is access to finance, this green loan. What is the approach or the mechanism that you adopted in your project? Because normally we also talk about a lot of this access to finance, and we also try to mobilize microfinance institutions, but somehow it is not to the extent that we wanted to do it. So if you could share some of your experience, that would be great. Then I also would like to know what is the average household CO2 production by burning a fuel wood per year in Afghanistan case. What is the ton of CO2 emission? Yeah, thanks. Over to you, Cosima.
Yeah, would you like to answer that directly?
So the local banks, yes. So basically, when we started the project, only one bank was certified by the Green Climate Funds. So we start working with this bank that is an associate of the project, and they are very much they were collaborating with us a lot, because it's a win-win partnership. In the case that they can provide these green loans, but they lack of intermediary in the market, or like promoting this demand. So we were working close together, and nowadays in Mongolia there is a specific initiative, the Mongolian Green Climate Corporation, a public-private entity that is concentrating the main commercial banks, and they apply also to the Green Climate Funds grants, and they are going to receive funds, a grant for insulation of houses, with the aim to insulate 20,000 houses in Mongolia. So we are already discussing with them to collaborate together with all the banks. So the delivery model was designed and implemented in this project, and not, unfortunately, we couldn't involve all banks or involve all suppliers we wish, because we were developing it, and it takes time, and it's difficult to involve more actors if the delivery model is not working properly. So as I said, we've been working since the beginning with Hasbank, with the green loan. Now we are signing an MOU with Hanbank, which is also a bank that is going to receive green loans. And we are working with the Mongolian Green Climate Corporation, Green Funds Corporation, sorry, to find a way of collaborating together to do this connection. Because so the green loans are available. The problem is that that the demand is low yet, and we need to provoke people to improve their living conditions, and we are using like a different mechanism. We are working with the Ministry of Construction, with the Financial Housing Division, to find a way to try to improve, increase this demand. The second question, I couldn't listen it. I don't know if I already responded or not. Cosima?
Yeah, and it's actually also concerned with, you know, how the linkages with the financial sector could be assured and how, you know, also from the demand side, your project was working. But I think you pretty much covered it. Ranjan, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah.
Or is this clear?
Well, just one thing maybe in that regard, I would like to say that one of the barriers we are facing is that majority of households are not meeting the bank requirements, and we are trying to leave these criteria, but some are established by the state bank, so it's very difficult to remove them. So we are in a working group with the Ministry of Construction, with the Mongolian Sustainable Finance Association, with this Mongolian Green Finance, with all the actors to discuss how we can, how can we decrease these barriers, and maybe currently the Ministry of Environment is also giving subsidies to these green loans to decrease the interest rate. But we are thinking about using also subsidies in a way of ensuring the payment or giving a kind of insurance to the banks, so more houses can reach these options. Still in the process of developing a solution.
Yeah, that's great. Ranjan, I don't.
Yes, I think there was a couple of questions to me as well about the CO2 and the access to finance. As I said in the presentation, the project, one of the component for us was access to microfinance in the project. On that, our partner, Afghanistan Microfinance Association, they work with microfinance institutions in Afghanistan, knowing that the microfinance sector is not well developed in the country. But still, we tried to link the MFIs with our beneficiaries, SMEs and beneficiaries, facilitate them and encourage the people through awareness campaign to apply for green loans. On one side, and on other side, we work closely with the MFIs to add to include the green loan package in their exist or create a new loan package for the customers called green loans. Few of the MFIs were very interested and they add green loan package in their exist housing packages. That was quite success, and the MFIs now they do support the component and they do support to the beneficiaries who want energy efficiency solutions at their houses. They provide green loans with much simple and better, in procedures than the other loan packages. That's so far one of the MFIs, they reported thousands of people already applied for the green loans packages in several provinces, because they also build the demonstration units of the energy saving solutions at their demonstration places to show to the people. And they understand, because in the energy saving case, there is saving and the people can pay back, and it is more affordable for the people, this loans on the in energy efficiency cases than the housing renovation or housing other sectors of the housing.
Okay. Yeah.
The second question was about the CO2. As I said, the Afghan population, it's the CO2 emissions per capita is 0.85. It's very small. But in our case, we calculated that based on the more specifically in the winters, where the people they burn the biomass fuels such as wood, coal, or sawdust, charcoals. We had a monitoring on that, and we calculated 1.7 ton of the CO2 per year or per winter can be saved in average when the people they apply the energy saving solutions at their houses. So in the family case, I think it's 5.9 ton of CO2 produced per family per year, of which 1.7 they save through energy efficiency techniques at their houses. I hope I could answer the questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I see several more questions and hands raised, but I would say that we move on to the next presentations and then join the discussions together. So I would like to now welcome Dr. Malini presenting the case of Metabuild. And what we're doing now is we're moving to the building and construction sector and really to environmental and material footprint.
Thank you. Thank you, Cosima, and a good morning and a good afternoon to all. I'll be presenting this on based on the experiences of the Metabuild project, and I'll just start sharing my screen. This project actually was from 2016 to 2020, so we are a completed project. And this was a multi-country project done in Bangladesh, Nepal, and Sri Lanka. We targeted resource-efficient cleaner production implementation in metal component industries, supplying to the building and the construction sector. And here it's important to see that buildings incorporate different kinds of metals, both in their structure as well as in the multiple fittings that they have. So what we realized was that when you look at metal components, there are a variety of processes in the manufacturing which are covered. It could be something like a foundry where you are casting the metal, or it could be something like metal finishing where you are electroplating, for instance. And here both large as well as small and medium enterprises are operational. So because of the variation in the processes and the amount of energy, materials, and water which is used, there is significant scope for savings. And both in terms of GHG emissions, as well as in terms of waste minimization. And earlier on, when the stage was being set, we heard about how the construction sector is growing in the Asia Pacific region. And this is so in these 3 project countries as well. And in particular, for instance, in Nepal, there has also been the post-earthquake reconstruction efforts. So what we are looking at is an inherent component in the building, which is the metal, which incorporates a lot of resources in its manufacture. And this is where we are trying to see whether resource efficiency can be built in. Yeah, so this is the slide which I covered, where I essentially mentioned that you have these metals, which are an inherent component in buildings, and they cover a wide variety of manufacturing processes. And there is enormous scope for savings in resources in energy, materials, and water. And so there is scope for GHG emissions reduction as well as waste minimization. So next slide, please. So in this project, what we found was we worked with 403 metal SMEs, and we implemented resource-efficient cleaner production measures. And we got a total savings per annum of around 3 million euros. And these accrued from savings in energy, water, materials. As you can see, they were substantial in terms of almost 34 million kilowatt hour energy, 49 million kilowatt hour of 49 million liters of water, 4.4 million kilograms of material. These are all per annum. At the same time, we had waste, which was minimized, about 0.7 million kg per annum. And the CO2 emissions reduction as a result of the energy savings was almost 13,000 tons equivalent. And in order to achieve all this, of course, we had to engage very intensely with the SMEs with whom we were working. We also had to build local capacity in terms of training local consultants. We also worked with financial institutions so that access to finance could be could be ensured. And we also worked with technology suppliers for the supply of clean tech, for clean technologies. In this case, we initially tried to focus on the low or no cost measures so that benefits could be realized. And we always made a business case for RECP implementation. But there were several measures also where investment was required. Next slide, please. So what did we learn? In order for SMEs to implement resource-efficient cleaner production, they have to be motivated and they have to trust the service provider. The motivation can come because they are experiencing some pain points. It could be the cost of the resources, high energy cost, or lack of water availability, or it could be because of customer requirement. It could also be because this is allowing them a chance to access finance and also clean technologies. If you can convince them that by implementing, you can reduce your production cost, that also works as a motivator. At the same time, there might be someone else in the cluster who is a leader to whom the other industries look up to. And if that industry is implementing resource-efficient cleaner production measures, then the others are willing to follow. And invariably, there is some kind of a platform, like a local business associate, chamber of commerce, or maybe a local industry association, through which this kind of motivation can be built. In terms of trust, we have seen that they trust if the consultants are experienced, and whoever is offering the service, in this case, the project consortium, is reputed in their own countries. They also trust if they can see for themselves that similar measures have been implemented in other industries which are similar to their own, or if you can demonstrate some of these measures in their own industries or neighboring industries. Next slide, please. So in order to mainstream SCP in the building supply chain, we feel that one of the important measures is that the customers need to support this. Whoever is buying these metal products, they are the ones who have to be able to support resource efficiency enhancement. So that is one important component because the metal products are way down in the supply chain for buildings. We could also think of having benchmarks for resource use while selecting suppliers for resource-intensive parts, and metal components are extremely resource-intensive. Then, of course, we could encourage circular economy measures, and here we could look at possibilities like use of waste-based products, such as the use of, when you have sheet metal cutoffs, which can be used for manufacturing smaller parts, or you can look at foundry slag, which comes for making components like paver blocks, etc. So provided, of course, that the quality and the functional requirements are met. The other option is one could keep track of materials in buildings so that at the end of life, the materials can be recovered effectively. And in this context, of course, modular buildings would really be useful for ease of dismantling and reuse. So thank you. You can find much more on the SCP facility website about the project. Or you can always write to me if you have any specific questions. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Dr. Marini. Excellent presentation. I would move on to Jana right away with regards to the recycling building materials contribution, also from Mongolia.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well, thank you.
Okay, perfect. So I was asked to be very quick, so I will try to be so. Very same as the previous the project that was presented before ours. Our project finished. It finished 4 months ago. So I am glad to share all the results as well as all the lessons learned. That we have collected under the project. I'm also very happy that the Switch Asia program has provided a chance to 2 projects from Mongolia to be presented. and especially from the in the construction sector. So our project's objective was to work on construction and demolition waste management. Why we actually worked on it? Because if you talk about Mongolia, some of you that might not have been in Mongolia, Mongolia is the 17th biggest country in the world, and the construction sector is actually booming here, and is booming especially in the capital of Ulaanbaatar and in other provincial centers. There was no legal regulations for illegal dumping of construction and demolition waste, and or sustainable construction and demolition waste management. So simply in terms of the legal conditions, there were simply none. There was lack of official data and studies, lack of capacity, lack of technical and academic capacity, lack of human resources, and misconceptions among the public about reuse and recycled materials. What we mean by misconceptions is basically that the companies and SMEs that are producing recycled products, they have difficulty to find customers. 80% of the construction and demolition waste is illegally or was illegally dumped. But it's very important to realize that 20 to 25% of all overall solid waste is actually construction and demolition waste, which means that it is one of the largest waste streams in Mongolia. And as I already mentioned, this sector has been growing rapidly. What are the potential for scale up in other regions, in other provinces, or in other countries, and for replication? What we have done and the results of our project, we have actually produced the first construction and demolition waste-based product in Mongolia that is economically and technically feasible in the Mongolian context. This particular activity or result was conducted by our local partners that were trained in the European Union, and they conducted all the research and all the studies here in Mongolia. We also created a university curriculum and online classroom training platforms for non-formal education. Also, the first legal procedure on the construction and demolition waste management was approved and implemented by the Ministry of Construction and Demolition. This particular procedure is in place at this moment, and all construction and demolition companies have to follow it. And we have also successfully adapted all the EU policies. Lessons learned. There are, of course, many lessons learned, and I will be very happy to share with you the long list, but I try to really focus on a few particular aspects. We think that it's really important to engage professional associations and CSOs in the sector and creating awareness among them, because what we have actually realized that it's not only the public, but it's actually SMEs themselves that do not really see the importance of having sustainable construction sector. So it took quite a long time to really convince them that we are not doing it for ourselves, but we are doing it also for them. Involvement of the respective authorities with diverse backgrounds. We have established a couple of working groups under the project, and we really try to engage stakeholders from different ministries, different agencies, different non-governmental organizations, different grassroots initiatives. And at the end, the result was very good. Detailed planning, regular communication, and easy accessibility of senior team members that enable successful operation. This is something that some of the project implementers find as an ordinary and usual thing, but when we are implementing such a highly technical project, it's very important that our project team is actually accessible and can answer all the questions that either our beneficiaries or our partners might have. So basically, our project was a part of the overall circular economy initiatives. I have summarized some impacts and results that we have had, that we have produced. So in terms of economic impact, average production cost could be and will be reduced by 20% if companies can switch to recycled concrete aggregate. And actually some companies already applied to get some financial support and financial help from banks and from investors in Mongolia in order to start such production. Also, the opportunities for the commercial production of the recycled concrete aggregate are created on the market. What we have found out while doing some research and studies is actually is the fact that it costs less to produce recycled product from construction and demolition waste than to use raw materials only. Environmental impact. 30 to 50% reduction of resources, use, waste generation, soil and air pollution through resource efficiency and responsible waste management. In terms of social impact, more than 50% of the participants of all our trainings and activities were actually women that we did not really expect to achieve, because it's the construction sector that is highly dominated by men, and also youth. Mongolia is a country of young people, and so we really try to engage the youth as much as we could have. In terms of policy development, new procedures and standards were developed. This is a very important aspect for every project to back up any initiatives by legal requirements. And climate benefits. We have mitigated greenhouse gas by legalizing the sustainable practices in the construction and demolition waste management. I'm very happy that this kind of event is to share experience and knowledge, because even though our project finished, we have been contacted by several ongoing projects. For example, one that is implemented by ADB, Asian Development Bank. That is, its purpose is to build eco district in a GER district, which is on the outskirts of the capital city. And we have actually shared everything that we have collected with them, and we will try to cooperate as much as we can, even though our project is finished. Here you can read it yourself. Is the experience or very nice human story of one of our beneficiaries, whom we have cooperated with very closely. With this slide, I would close my presentation. I will share the contact information of our organization, of our project with you, and I will be very happy to answer any questions or comments that you might have.
Great, thank you very much, Jana. And given that we don't have that much time left, I would say that we now jump into the policy level contributions, and then have the opportunity to discuss maybe also a little bit longer than initially presumed, because the presentations and also the excellent questions already took up some more time than planned. So I would like to welcome Mr. Javed Khan and Mr. Ifan Tariq from Pakistan to contribute from their perspective, both with the experiences of the assignment in Pakistan and also with a wider perspective on the housing sector. And as said previously, it would be great if you could stick to the time of approximately 5 minutes for your contribution. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I have with me Mr. Javed Ali Khan, who would be supporting this intervention. And since you have asked me to be very precise, I would start by the 3 basic questions I need to actually answer in this intervention. The first one is, how do we shape our decisions in the housing and building at the policy level? I represent the Ministry of Climate Change, and which has dual mandate of addressing climate change and also addressing urban issues. And we have a number of international obligations in this regard to implement. And is the Paris Agreement for reduction in GHG emissions, and the Habitat Agenda, and the SDGs related to sustainable consumption and production. So at the policy level, what we are trying to do is integrate whatever our international obligations are, and based to link them, align them with our national priorities. So I would say that our decisions in this regard are influenced by whatever the international. We have signed the Paris Agreement, we have the SDGs, and the Habitat Charter in front of us, which oblige us to move in a sustainable, low carbon trajectory. And this green building code intervention with the SCP support is leads us towards this initiative. So the second is our national level commitment. So as I said, I represent a policy level institution, and our primary objective is to devise plans and programs which are climate compatible and which ensure urbanization. So I think it would not need too much of elaboration, because these two are two different sides of the same coin. We also recognize that there's a very important role of each stakeholder, and especially the private sector. With regard to main issues for the housing sector in Pakistan, I would like to highlight Pakistan is two main issues which I just want to highlight. Pakistan is a huge country with a huge population. Therefore, our housing requirement is also huge, and it keeps on building every year. The second is Pakistan is also a very diverse sort of country, a country which has more than 10 ecological systems, right from coastal areas to second highest point in the world. So you can very well the diversity of ecosystems we have. So each ecosystem has its own peculiarities, and each building code therefore requires documenting and incorporating whatever is required in that context. I would stop here and request Mr. Javed Ali Khan to carry forward this intervention further. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Irfan Saab, and thank you, Cosima and Arab and colleagues. Irfan Saab has really set the tone that what are the Pakistan's challenges and how at the policy level the government is playing its role to address the challenge. And I would say that the green roadmap for development of green building code, or the program that we have started, and tomorrow we will have a consultative workshop on the implementation, opportunities and challenges of the policy guidelines for the development of green building code in Pakistan, is really addressing to those challenges. Our focus is to really sharply attend to the diversity of Pakistan in developing the roadmap or developing the framework for the green building code. So the challenges are huge, but with the challenges, the opportunities is also great. And this project is not a new initiative in its in this area, but it is supported by the learning that was really made through the earlier project from the EU Switch Asia support, was development of national action plan for sustainable consumption and production. So the national action plan for sustainable consumption and production already identified and did work in the area of greening, importance of greening the building sector. So now the intention is to really develop an outcome which can clean up the green building sector or green the building construction sector in Pakistan. It is very fortunate that the government has launched 5 million housing program, and the Ministry of Climate Change has asked UN Habitat and our team to work on the development of green building practices, a guideline for induction of green building practices in the 5 million housing program. So we are working on that. So we are working on 2 different directions to meet the challenge. And what the experience shows, that if a pilot can be made and learning could be acquired from the experiences of the pilot in the development of the national code, so that helps very, very well, and that creates a very congenial environment or a very supportive environment to embark on this journey of greening the building construction sector. So I am hoping our deliberation and discussion tomorrow will focus on these challenges, and we will come up with a very productive outcome that will lead to good results and for building the code for Pakistan. Thank you.
Thank you very much to both of you for these excellent contributions. Very, very clear, and also very, very nicely linked also with the with the commitments made by the international community, and also, of course, the SCP policy processes going on, where buildings and housing as a sector also plays a hugely important role. I would like to welcome Nurzat now as the final contribution, and I just hope that you can all stay on a little bit longer until 5:20, 5:25, so that we can also have a lively discussion. Nurzat, welcome to the floor, and we're looking forward to your contribution.
Thank you very much, Cosima. Hello, everyone. And it's very nice to be here. And as a final contributor, I will be trying to be very short. So I would like to share with you Kyrgyzstan experience regarding the sustainable consumption and production and circular economy approach in building sector for Kyrgyzstan. I'm Nurzat Abdurasulova. I'm director of Unison Group, which is the advisory company from Kyrgyzstan. And just quickly go through into the main points, just to show you that this is the picture of Bishkek, which is the capital city of Kyrgyzstan. And we have a various the type of the buildings, from the multi-story buildings, of course, also the informal settlements around the Bishkek, and then remote also local villages. So I will not stop in some of my slides in order to save this time. But regarding the national policy and regulatory framework of the energy efficient and sustainable consumption and production in buildings, there is a new set of the legislation in Kyrgyzstan, which is mirroring the all key provisions of the European Union Building Directive as adapted to the Kyrgyz market context. So on the base of this EPBD, Kyrgyzstan has adopted new legislation, which is energy performance of buildings law, which setting up the legal obligations of the market players and state and municipal institutions on energy performance of buildings. Or on the other hand, that there is established that minimum energy efficiency requirements for all new buildings and refurbishment. Also, there is ongoing work on the harmonization of with other existing laws. For example, the General Law of Energy Saving, which is actually covering for all other economic sectors of the country. There is a development of the secondary legislation, government decrees, and also there is some work done already on updating of the relevant existing technical standards and regulations. Some for the enforcement of the new legislation, some also methodologies, new market-based services, and state register, online state registers, and other instruments have been developed. And just recently, also there is a roadmap for energy efficiency renovation of the public buildings is developed within the donor support for the government. So there is also, of course, ongoing technical support from Switch Asia, EU support, which is about analytical assessment of the sustainable consumption and production of circular economy concept opportunities for the building and construction sector. So, which also elaborating of the existing legislation, its enforcement, and also introduction of the best international practices and methodologies, such as EU taxonomy, World Green Building Council, Global Construction Alliance experiences, and other things, including the Green Building Code for future Green Building Code for Kyrgyzstan. And of course, there is existing market constraints for adoption of such an approach and concepts. And this is existing in the several levels. So one is the policy and regulatory insufficiencies. Then there is institutional constraints, capacity, lack of capacity on the business community among the policymakers or financial institutions, lack of professionals which is qualified for the SCP-related services. Of course, there is also a low awareness and information asymmetries among the market stakeholders, which is actually limiting the demand for SCP due to a lack of understanding. Market barriers is mostly come out of previously listed challenges, and also it includes SCP technology solutions, higher price services, and also there is barriers such as existing high prices on the import duties and etc. So within the technical assistance, which is given by the Switch Asia to the government of Kyrgyz Republic, there is a ongoing study named Sustainable Consumption and Production Tools and Circular Economy Approach in Building, with a focus of energy efficiency. And there is some lessons learned and recommendations. So I would like to share with you some of them, which is, first of all, updating existing legislation regarding the energy performance of buildings, and include the lessons learned on implementing and enforcement of EPBD in European Union and other countries. So continuous policy dialogue to follow implementation of the new EU initiatives and targeting implementing of SCP and circular economy considerations. Also, development of external sustainable methodologies, such as already I mentioned, like EU taxonomy, World Green Building Council experiences, and other things. And also implementation of pilot and demonstration projects, which will be in combination with capacity building and awareness raising activities for the address these bottlenecks regarding the information asymmetries and low awareness raising, and provide further support and analytical work on multiple and wider benefits from the introduction of SCP and circular economy concepts in market conditions of Kyrgyzstan. So that's very quickly all, and maybe if there will be the questions, I will address it within the already other session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nurzad. And I think now we have covered kind of the whole spectrum of important issues with regard to building and housing, starting from the, let's say, lived experience of new urban dwellers up to you know, the high-ranking policy-making decisions. It is now 5 o'clock, and by the agenda, our meeting would come to a close. I would say that we dedicate maybe the next 15 to 20 minutes to a discussion, starting with quick questions to the presenters, who I would also ask to answer quickly. And then we would be really interested in your contributions with regard to the questions we formulated for the discussion slot, to be then ended with a contribution by Yingji Deng from ICLEI. So I have noted down from previously that there were several questions, including from Rebecca. Let me just check again. Kodaidat and Eliosa.
Thanks, Cosima. I can come in now. Rebecca here.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I think my question was for, I think for both the Mongolia and Afghanistan presentations. I think I was just curious to know if in their work, have they been able to leverage any traditional knowledge in addressing some of those climate-related housing challenges, you know, not just both from a production and consumption perspectives, because I think there are always a lot of lessons we can learn in terms of how traditionally those kind of challenges were addressed, you know, in previous generations. So I'm just wondering if that is also part of what they have been doing, and what are some of the lessons from that. Thank you.
Mohammed and Beatrice, would you like to come in here?
Yes, in our case, we have been testing RAM earth construction bricks. It's not an insulation solution, but we were thinking about in the future to provide affordable energy efficiency houses. And unfortunately, in Mongolia, the construction tradition is very short. It's based mainly, the only construction of sedentary house are the temples, and this is the Roman earth construction. So we've been testing it and seeing if it's worthy, if it's affordable, and how can we introduce it again into the country. Then for the insulation materials, we're looking to the wool. We were also looking to what a previous project has done according to insulation with wool. We're looking also to the felt that is very much used, but in this sense, the wool for insulation need to be treated, and it's a bit more complex. So in the case of Mongolia, it's more difficult because the construction tradition is mainly for nomadic houses, for yurts. So this is like a new construction. But as much as we could, we were trying to get some of the ideas. The good thing is that people are always constructing to the south, because this is a tradition, it's in their tradition, and this is also very good for energy passive gains. I think my colleague Riyad, he probably has more inputs on that, this topic. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Beatrice, and thanks for the question. Actually, in our case, as I said, we tried to provide a simple and affordable solutions to the beneficiaries, to our target groups. That include solar verandas and fewer insulation solutions, and then working on the kitchens and so on. On one side, it's mostly locally built with the local materials and with local capacities, which I mean it has less challenges on the production of materials side, because the local materials they are locally available, and the people use it for construction of the houses and in the construction sector. And also the low-case solutions give this opportunity. For example, we have the solar verandas. It's covered by plastic. We know the plastic is not a good item in terms of the energy environment, and it's not very recommended solution. But on the other hand, we had a calculation of the advantage and disadvantage of the plastic. We have developed alternative solutions for the targeted communities to have they wanted this kind of the verandas in their houses. And meanwhile, we develop sub-components for plastic to support the plastic waste recycle in the city. And that's not only limited to the verandas developed by our project. It's for any type of the plastics waste in the city. We support the collectors or the value chain of in the market to collect and to send this kind of items to the recycle. So the solutions are mostly adapted to the affordability of the people and adapted to the housing types. Although it's a very large number of the solutions developed in the project, because the housing market is very complex in Kabul. We have so many types of the housing classes, the low and medium and high class. I mean, from mud and straw to the concrete and reinforced concrete construction in vertical buildings in the city. That's why we try to develop more range of the solutions for each category of the houses and affordable according to their level of economic classes and according to their affordability.
That's great. Yeah, thank you very much for your answers. And I think the question of Quentin actually fits in very nicely here. Quentin, are you still here? Will you be able to ask Madeleine this question yourself, or should I read it out?
I'm around, Cosima.
Okay, great.
Quentin, greetings from Tajikistan. I'm regional director with GERES. Yeah, I'm going to widen it a little bit as a remark. Reaching the end, I see a lot of the discussion and what Madeleine presented in briefly of the scoping study. I didn't see the point of building as usage. This question of cooking, heating, cooling. The link to pollution, and I would say, yeah, and so my question is that aren't we here for maybe good reasons? I'm not questioning this. Aren't we here focusing on middle class, urban, rather large urban problem? I mean, this is in European Agency for Environment article recently confirming that it's not growth of population that is contributing to GHG mostly. It's now currently the middle class, and the middle class you find mainly in Asia. So I guess we talk the same language here. It's an option, of course, if you want to tackle the question of GHG emissions. Now, what about the large part of the population that are usually, suffering from inequalities, that are usually poorer, that are certainly contributing a lot to pollution and paying the toll of this pollution as well. So yeah, and maybe an additional remark on the way you presented today this two intervention of GERES in Afghanistan and in Mongolia as social aspects. I wouldn't put it social. I would put it trying to look at environmental problems in an inclusive way. And indeed, the two projects are tackling rather informal, rather poorer parts of the population. In the two cases, and I think we could extend that to different ways to other cities in Asia, where actually air pollution is a key issue.
Yeah, Quentin. No, this is.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. The reason why we phrased it as a social approach is because here the dwellers themselves are in the focus, right? And with Switch Asia grant projects, this is not always the case. I mean, as you saw with the two other grant projects that were really focused on the construction phase and also on the demolition phase, I mean, sustainable production in the building sector can be a hugely technical issue. And that's why we found it so interesting that the two GERES projects brought all of these different dimensions together and had all these different facets of the building sector sustainability questions unified. Dean, would you like to answer to Quentin's question?
Thank you, Quentin, for your question. Yeah, a good point that you raised. So we actually also address usage in the study. We actually have assessed the building along the whole life cycle, so from material production to demolition at the end. And usage is a very important part, as you mentioned, where also a lot of GHG emissions are emitted. So this is definitely addressed. Just in the very brief input that I gave today, I was asked to focus on more on the affordable and social aspects that we have assessed. But there is also a whole chapter on the usage in the study. So I can definitely invite you to take a look afterwards at this. And what we've assessed on the usage of the buildings is that we then also saw very good concepts in different focal countries that already tried to reduce the GHG reduction. In this stage, for example, to raise awareness on energy efficient equipment in buildings and how to save water and waste during the stage. So a very important point, as you rightly said.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madeline. Yeah. Maybe a follow-up remark based on the two projects we are implementing or finishing to implement for way forward. If I may, since I think it's also the discussion here. What we uncover, I mean, it's obvious, but I think it's important to mention, is that given existing levels of poverty and consumption production patterns, if you want to address fully, coherently, consistently these questions of housing, you will need to look at the poorest, informal, etc. settlement. And looking at this is probably using grants, showing example, piloting solutions to show the government and the international partners that further intervention and further support and further subsidies need to be put in place. I'm talking maybe donors, but I'm certainly talking about an advocacy for the authorities. And on the other hand, probably this middle class that is consuming a lot and that is to an extent a large threat to the balance of the planet currently. These problems can certainly be addressed with more private sector oriented support. And I think these are things that modestly we are trying to contribute, and we are quite happy to have this instrument that is Switch Asia to look at both aspects. But I really think that these two aspects are clearly important to continue working on next to policy level. That is key, obviously, awareness, etc.
Yes, absolutely. And I think this fits nicely with the question that Stefanos asked, who unfortunately had to leave already, and which was planned to be our first discussion question. What is really needed to further promote the importance of the housing building sector as a keystone topic, or in the way that Stefanos phrased it, I mean, just the incredible challenge that lies, ahead of the sector with regards to basically decisions being made today that are not in line with the policy commitments that have already been made. I saw a couple of hands before, but I think so with regards to Hudaydat, you already have to leave. Are there any other contributions? Yes.
I'm still here, Mahmoud.
Okay, great. So you contributed another important aspect, which is water usage in the construction process, which of course is also not just an issue in Afghanistan, but everywhere. And of course, with other Switch Asia grant projects, we also had other kind of material construction focused projects where it was also about finding or identifying locally adapt, optimize building materials. But to me, the question is really, how can these decisions also be shaped on the policy level, and what is needed for the sector to become shaped in a way that green decision making is the default rather than the exception. Any thoughts on this? So maybe with regard to the time, I would then invite Yingqi Deng from ICLEI to speak about this kind of wide-ranging question, in the hopes that you have some answers for us, or at least some further.
We still had Ranjan who had a question, if he's still here.
I'm here, Cosima, if there are no questions from other participants, because I've already asked. So do I have a permission, Cosima, if there are not?
Yes, of course, go ahead.
Okay, I think it's a very interesting discussion. I think we can discuss whole day, they're so interesting presentation and the intervention. But I'm a bit curious to know, also to a question to the floor itself, because if I'm not mistaken, please correct me if I'm wrong, because Meta Grill project highlights that it reduces about 13,000 tons of carbon dioxide per year. And Afghan Green Homes project has a potential to reduce something 500,000 tons of CO2 on 300,000 households per year. So my question to the floor itself is, in terms of economy of scale, shouldn't we promote green home types of project? compared to the Meta build project, which only reduces about 13,000 tons of CO2. Afghan project shows 500,000 tons of CO2. So this is just my query to the floor, whether we are cost effective to promote these kind of projects in the region. Thank you. Over to you, Cosima.
Yes, no, I think that's a really important question in terms of
Cosima, can I know the question? It looks I partly was able to listen to the question, but I think I have the answer. Can you repeat the question?
Yes, of course. So the question was that if we know that with certain interventions, like for example the MetaBuild project, we reduce only a fragment of the reduction potential that we have with other projects and with other concepts, shouldn't we focus the attention on those projects that have this great reduction potential?
So in general, if you allow me, I think the entire green building concept itself has a huge potential. Like when Arab started the discussion this morning, he did say that it's a low-hanging fruit, and there is a huge potential for warming, like say in Pakistan, because I was part of the National Action Development of National Action Plan for the SCP in Pakistan. So I had an opportunity to review all sectors of economy, and I could find that SCP provides a recipe and honestly such an opportunity to capture that and minimize the waste and become efficient, as well as reduce the GHG emission together. So it's a win-win situation, and all such interventions are extremely cost effective. If not immediately, it is certainly in the medium to say in the medium term, all interventions applying the SCP concept can become positive and contribute to the reduction of global warming. Certainly, this is my very studied outcome and result in Pakistan.
Yes, thank you very much, sir.
I would like to add a few words on the latest question. Yes, we have this Kabul Green Home project, and we saw the impacts, and it was a long-term impact. It calculated for 300,000 potentially to be equipped with ESS. Got to save that amount, but that's really in line with the context we have here. For example, housing in Kabul, it's very rapidly developed, and we wanted to have an immediate solution for existing houses. On the cities where for example, there is the master plans are applying, or the authorities, they have the norms and standards. On that cases, I think it's better to more deal with the policymakers, with the authorities who work in the building and housing sectors for the standards and norms to integrate in energy efficiency concepts on the norms and standards in order to build more sustainable cities. But since in Afghan context, I mean in Kabul, it was not very clear. We don't have, so far, we don't know when the city master plan will be applied, or when will be developed, and then when will be applied, what will happen with these thousands of houses already built. That's why we develop immediate solutions for the existing houses, which have significant impact on the fuels reduction. On other hand, in this context, we also say over 90% of the fuels are biomass fuels for the heating. That may not be the case in other countries. 90% is a big amount here in Afghanistan they use for the heating the houses. That's why this impact of the energy saving solutions was so high, and it's reduced a significant amount of the CO2 through the energy efficiency solutions. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think it's really in the combination of all kind of the different efforts that along the life cycles of buildings where a great shift has to happen. Yes, so Yingqi Deng, thank you so much for your patience, and it would be great if you could bring your contribution now.
Thank you, Cosima. Thank you very much. Thank you, Arab. Thank you, Alessandra, for your invitation. And especially thank you all the presenters for your deeply impressive projects. So I'm here, try to maybe end the brainstorming session with more positive notes here, and also provide some reflection from my side for today. My name is Yingqi Deng, and I'm from ICLEI. And ICLEI is a global network of cities committed to sustainable urban development. If it's okay, I would also like to quickly share a few slides I have quickly put together to reflect our conversation today. Yes, so my name is Yingqi Deng, and I'm from Circular Development Team. So today I probably will provide more reflection regarding to direction of circularities. From the presentation today, we have seen challenges in the regions such as very rapid urbanization, massive growth in material use, resource scarcity, and efficient building stock. However, those challenges also at the same time are opportunity for a systematic approach. And I think particularly with combination use of sustainable urban planning and SCP in building and construction sector. So to speak, the combination of greenfield and brownfield approach. So at ICLEI here, in working with local governments and our member cities, we recommend this 5R framework as the levers in building and construction sector. We recommend we use this in an incremental and integrated way. So we call it 5R framework: recover, reduce, reuse, rethink, and regenerate. And so recover, for example, we encourage including building demolition in the life cycle process. In the case of Paris municipality, design for disassembly is sort of recommended in the building code. And reduce, they'll design more efficient building production process and logistic, recycle building material, and save costs. So in working with City of Baltimore, we have set up a program called Waste to Wealth programs. So the idea is to deconstruct the vacant building brick by brick in order to recover additional values of the buildings. And by doing that, I think the program creates 6 to 8 times more jobs than normal deconstruction industries. And reuse, so it's the way of rethinking and reuse vacant spaces or space sharing to increase the occupancy rates. So for example, of City of Prado, the city set up an urban agency to reuse. Idea is really to think about how can we reuse the kind of current vacant spaces within the urban area, and to host sort of temporary activity or to increase the usage of disused buildings. And rethink sort of the idea of using circular urban planning methods or design denser and human-centered city and design accessibility and walkable city and multimodal mobility. So various cities can serve very good examples such as Barcelona, Singapore. These are very user-centered dense cities, as well as regenerate. So thinking about city, designing city as a regenerated system, such as adapting renewable energy measures and nature-based solutions into the urban planning. I think I would stop here as my short reflection to the presentation today, since we are kind of already quite over time. And I will give the microphone back to Cosima. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, indeed, it is an optimistic outlook, trying to bring the different problem areas together and think about them in systems, because in the end, it is a systemic shift that needs to take place, and that needs to be brought forward by all of the involved levels. So I would now ask Alessandra and Arab to maybe give us a quick sum up from their perspectives. And in the case of Arab, also we have some further events planned in the future. So where we would also really like to see you again and cooperate with you on developing our contributions to these and the concepts of these events. Yeah, I would leave the floor to Arab and Alessandra.
Well, from my side, I would like to thank actually all participants, because I think it's really like a unique opportunity now also through VTCs to connect and to share the different work that you're doing. I hope that then the meeting was interesting for all of you, that you normally work rather more nationally in countries, and also for our delegations to learn what do we implement, particularly and technically then in each country. I think it was interesting to listen how the different projects are focusing on different aspects then on housing and building. I think I also want to thank, and I think that the presentation at the very beginning were also interesting in setting the scene. So I would like to thank also UNEP and also our Nikki expert then for presenting the study that we carried out a year ago about on housing and construction sector, and which I think is also instrumental for us to see in which direction we want to move on with the program. So thank you everyone, and thanks also for delegations, some of them being very active, so thanks a lot.
Thank you, Alessandra. Let me just take some elements as a takeaway, I would say, from this interesting discussion. Sorry for being late, but as someone said, we could have gone even 4 more hours, very intensive. And sorry for some hectic connection from time to time, at least, which affected me. So from this discussion, what I would retain from here, without nominating or designating directly the person, there has been a lot done so far. A lot is being done, but in any case, it's very clear that it is not enough to make the difference that we need, and we must absolutely step up government, business sector, and citizens. There's a large diversity of way buildings are being done in the countries and addressing their issues, but we still have many issues related to building material, to the production process, to design, to recycling, and access to finance for the needed small and medium enterprises, and even for the citizens to buy the type of apartments. Despite the many cases we have, there's still a lot to be done, and we hope that Switch Asia, with the various cases that has been implemented in this context, can provide some of the pilot projects that will be scaling up later on. The issue is that there is little demand. The demand is rather low because of lack of knowledge, lack of information, and the market limitations. So these issues need to be also addressed in parallel when we have the policies and we will be building those green buildings. We should not neglect the demand, the market, and so on, and the lack of investment capacities, as well as the loans that are accessible depending on the level of the people, something that is affordable and building on the local solution. There is definitely an absolute need to engage all concerned professionals, professional associations like small and medium enterprises, national and local authorities and other stakeholders. Otherwise, we will be missing important part of the system and we will not be implementing properly the issues. Even though it's a very high political issue in each and every country, mainly related to the climate agenda, where we are building up some green building codes here, green building policies and so on, putting it in the context of sustainable consumption, production, and circular economy will help to deliver better by aligning, in particular with the EU policies, mainly in our context, learning from each other and trying to adapt to the local context. So looking carefully at the market system and the market constraint, the regulatory inefficiencies. We do have some nice policies not implemented properly. The regulation is not necessarily appropriate, and do not neglect and insist on that. Inform properly, let the knowledge be known, make sure that the people know where they can access things and so on, and create a demand with access to local funding. Last point, as Cosima said, this is for us, the outcome of this meeting will be an input to a larger meeting that we plan to have, let us say, in Q4 later this year, for which you will be all invited. We will be, of course, inviting much more stakeholders from outside. We said about large event. Hopefully it will be, if not 100% face-to-face hybrid meeting from Bangkok, and inviting others. And we invite you really to join us at that time. We will do it in partnership with you. It's not just a Switch Asia, but it will be with the partners, and you will have much more active role in this, and it will be over 2 days as much as possible, or in various sessions if we have to do it remotely. With this, thank you very much. Thank you all. Thank you, Cosima. Thank you, Alessandra. Thank you for our grant project colleagues. Thank you for the national representation from Pakistan and Uzbekistan and other countries. Thank you for our partners. And sorry for the ones who had to leave us earlier, but we will reconnect with each and every one of you, and we will prepare a short report out of this. All the PowerPoint presentation will be shared at some point. Thanks a lot, and connect next time.
Thank you so much, everyone. Hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Yo, bye.
Thank you very, very much. It was really very informative, and we really gained a lot of knowledge and insight. Lucky to be part of this process. Thank you.
This was our intention. Thank you.
Thank you.